Hey there, beautiful souls. I'm Colynn
And I'm Meridee.
and welcome to Spiritual Sisters with Sass, the podcast where two sisters with a passion for spirituality and a touch of sass come together to explore the exciting world of self-improvement.
That's right, Colynn. We embarked on this incredible journey together, diving into different self-improvement techniques, yoga practices, and a whole array of life experiences.
Yeah, and through it all, we've managed to create lives that are abundant, happy, and constantly evolving. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it, Meridee?
You bet, sis. We've got two very different perspectives on life, but that's what makes this podcast so special. I'm all about diving in head first into life's adventures and embracing every challenge with a bit of sass. While Colynn here, she's got her own unique approach.
Yep, that's me. And I'm all about the yoga, mindfulness, and finding my zen. And together we make the perfect balance.
So whether you're looking for some wisdom, a few laughs, or just some heartfelt stories, you're in the right place. We're here to share our personal experiences and insights with you, all while exploring the wild and diverse world of self-improvement.
So grab your headphones and get ready for a fantastic journey with us. Spiritual Sisters with Sass is here to uplift, inspire, and keep it real.
Thanks for tuning in, lovely listeners. Let's dive in.
Spirit and sass. Here we go. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we are focusing on inner child healing. So I'm super excited. I actually just did a meditation on this a couple weeks ago and found my own work with inner child healing probably about 5-6 years ago when I first started coming to Costa Rica. You know, this place here, it's like an expat dream, I guess, and spiritual community is abundant. And so one of the things that happens is like being in community, often, especially on some type of a retreat or some kind of a workshop. Got it?
Are you? I can't.
Yeah.
Still, you're so quiet. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, often people will share, or any professional that kind of has the extra training will usually work it into their smorgasbord of offerings when they're working with you. So I found this actually, it was before Costa Rica, it was with Jessie when we were both coaching with Jessie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So really, what is inner child healing? It's also known as reparenting. Basically, you know, we've gone through a lot of this stuff in the podcasts, right? You're a kid. You are an open vessel. You don't know the difference between truth and lies. You're just a child that's learning from adults that are teaching you their subconscious beliefs.
You are a sponge.
Yeah, instilling basically their beliefs into you for you to believe as truth. Until you become an adult and start to think on your own, like, oh, just wait, maybe that all wasn't true. So whatever, let's just say between 3 and 5 years old is when something will start to kind of be regular, like a thought process of I'm not good enough, basically. This could look like something super simple as you spend some time coloring in the lines, right? You do this beautiful coloring pictures. You spend 2 hours on it. You make it for your mom or your dad, and it's so amazing. You put all this time and energy into it. You're so proud of it. You take it to your parent. You're like, look what I made you. And they're like, oh, yeah, right? And then they keep doing whatever they're doing. And then later on in the day, you go to throw something out and there's your fucking picture in the garbage that you were so proud of.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story? I'm not enough. right? So then whatever kind of like how your parents, just like you, how your parents do anything is how your parents do everything. So if they're that dismissive of a piece of art that maybe they don't even know that you spent 3 hours creating, they're probably dismissive of other things that you do. So that dismissive part starts to become a repetition. It becomes actually like a neural pathway in the wiring of your nervous system, and your thought process around it, your thought process that you were taught, by the way, not your own thought process, will continue to ingrain, and you will create a story. And then technically you spend the rest of your life proving that story correct.
Mhm.
So I've worked with, I mean, hundreds of clients. You could say thousands if you talk about people in teacher trainings, but I'm just talking about private coaching. Worked with hundreds of clients, and it's so amazing to hear the stories. Now it's based or rooted in I'm not good enough, but that's not it, because none of us are good enough. That's like pretty, it's called a samskara in yoga. It's like a repetitive thought that really is ingrained. By the time you become aware of it, it's pretty hard to uningrain. It's
And
just
it's
like,
really interesting because it's also one of those things that we don't see. It's so subconscious and so deeply ingrained in us that it's not something that even comes to us. So we'll have a moment, or even like one of the things that I'm working with our coach is, like preparing your nervous system for the success that you keep asking for. Because if you don't, the result is going to be, oh my God, I made $100,000 this month, and next month I can't because I blew all that money and I don't deserve it. I'm not enough, because that's the core wound we all have. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty enough. Get rid of that first descriptive word. I'm not enough. And that piece, I think, is the piece that every single one of us have that needs to be healed. And that's that piece of us that literally, if we don't reparent ourselves, and I feel like this needs to be brought up as well, as like in coaching, we don't focus on the past, which is, I think, where probably part of my problem with some of my counseling came from. Was I was so focused on all the things that were happening in my past that you can't necessarily move forward. And so then you're focused on what's happening in the past. But in coaching, we focus on where you're headed. And then when something stops you, hits you, hinders you, we look at where it came from so we can reparent the child so that you can move forward and move out of this I'm not enough. And it's not something that you do like that. It's something that you're going to do. I've probably done it 5,000 times. But
well,
I
it's,
always go back to one of these things that you said to me, which was, think about how many moments you had that this applies to. So if you were 3 years old and there's 365 days and you had 5 moments a day, that's like 1,500 moments right there that you need to go back and reparent. And that same one wound from one day can carry forward for multiple episodes or multiple things happening.
yeah, I think that we get a little bit too hung up on the emotional aspect of things, okay? Because we're humans in a human body that has a nervous system that has emotions. So it's like a lot of people will like have to go back and figure out where this came from. And even Nick gave an analogy the other day of like, imagine that your hands, you're burning your hand in fire. Do
That
you
was
need to
such a
go
good one.
back and wonder why and figure out why it is that you put your hand in the fire in the first place before you can pull your hand out of the fire? Or do you
Or
just pull
before
your
you put
hand
it
out of
under
the
cold
fire?
water and start fixing the problem.
Yeah.
For me, that was
So,
huge. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, you don't sit there and go, oh my God, why did I burn? Oh my God, why did I burn myself? I got to figure out why I burned myself before I
right,
fixed that I burnt myself.
right. A little bit too emotionally attached to our suffering, actually. And what if you can pull the emotions out and you can just compare it to writing,
Okay.
right? There are many people my age and older that are very clear that even if you were born left-handed, that you can learn to write with your right hand.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if you went to Catholic school, you were hit with a ruler every time you used your left hand.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I tell you all of a sudden, and it doesn't matter if it's right or left-handed, what's your dominant hand and what hand do you write with all the time? And now I just say, start writing with your opposite hand. So what's it going to look like? So we do this in coaching. I write, say, everybody write with your dominant hand, I love you. How long did it take? Like 3 seconds. What does it look like? It looks great. You're used to it, right? It was super easy. Now, right, I
40
love
years
you.
of practicing with my right hand.
Right. Now, right, I love you with your left hand. It took you triple the
A
time.
minute.
It looks like shit. Like it was not easy at all. You really had to be present and think about it. So here's the emotionality of shifting patterns. It's learning to write with your opposite hand. But because these are traumas from childhood, we tend to assign a lot of emotion to it. In fact, our parents, because they really are the root of our trauma, just like we are the root of our children's trauma, our parents assign a lot of emotion to it as well. When I'm looking at past hurts, I see where it came from, and it comes from our parents. There's just like, it comes from our parents, it comes from our teachers, it comes from authority
Primary
figures.
caregivers.
Like, this is it. And so you can attach a lot of emotion to it, or we can just look at it and then reparent it. So what happened when you're a kid? Okay, so let's continue with that line of thought. So you have a dismissive father, and even when you do your best to try to get his attention, he still doesn't pay attention. But you know, what does daddy love? Daddy loves a hard worker. Daddy loves someone who takes their time. You know, he says it all the time, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, you are inferring a lot from his behavior. And then when you show up and you try to do exactly what he told you, guess what? He's still not paying attention. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you can make a decision from there of like, are you going to keep trying really, really hard to show up in this way and not ever get attention? Or are you going to say, fuck this and do whatever you want and become a rebel? So there's your first kind of like choice. A lot of people, it's a known ingrained fact that we need love in order to survive. The Russian baby studies are like a very famous study. There's many of them done. Orphanages, taking babies, feeding them, changing them, but not loving them, still have high mortality rates. Some orphanage is 100%. So what did they deduce? You need love in order to live. And so we know this is inherent and ingrained within us. So we need to behave in a way that's going to get us the love. Hence, we start to develop our ego. Our ego is our nervous system. It's a helper. It's here so that we're not just a robot that like gets lost in the flock of sheep, that we stand out and get the love that we need. So what does that look like? Okay, so for the dad that doesn't pay attention, you know, that nothing's ever good enough for, either it's fuck you, and now I can get his attention because I'm such a brat, and that I'll call love, or I'm just going to keep trying harder and never be good enough. So let's say, you know, patient A takes the traveled route of, I'm going to keep pushing as hard as I can to get my dad's attention, and he's never going to pay attention to me. Okay, now I'm 20 years old. I'm a woman. I'm out in the world. Guess what kind of person I'm attracted to?
Men that don't pay attention to you.
Right? Emotionally unavailable men that say that they're really into hard workers, but then don't give hard workers like the attention that they're seeking.
Acknowledgement.
Right? So then all we're doing now is we are attracted literally to our trauma. And instead of healing it, the idea is there's many like ideas and hypotheses out there that that's an opportunity for us to heal, which is why we're so attracted to it. But because we can override our brains and our egos are very helpful in doing that, then we actually take it as like, that's what I feel like. That's pretty normal to me. So if I attracted in a nice guy, they're icky because
it's uncomfortable. Even I'm doing it right now and it's uncomfortable.
They acknowledge me and they love me and they love what I do,
and
even
they
when I
spoil
don't work
me
hard.
and do all the things that I want them to do, and I don't know what to do with that.
Right.
But because I'm conscious of it.
But you're also mid-40s.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go
Yeah.
back to the 20-year-old who just keeps going for daddy who doesn't fucking pay attention to her. Or whatever. It could be mommy and you're still like with a dude, right? That
Like I'm
doesn't
just
pay
making
attention.
faces right now
Yes,
because it may apply in somewhere in my life at the moment.
exactly. So basically, instead of healing ourselves, we deepen our wounds. We continue to prove that we are
Feed our
unworthy
subconscious and prove
because,
that all the things that we've been telling ourselves, because this isn't necessarily something that was told to us, the things we've been telling ourselves
right.
are true.
So you wire a pathway. And when I went to school 20 something years ago, which is crazy to even think that I'm that old, but when I went to school 20 something years ago, they told us that you couldn't rewire the nervous system and that nerves didn't repair, heal, or regrow. And that has changed 100%. But like, that's what I was taught when I went to nursing school all those years ago. So you're just doomed. That's why you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And it's bullshit because you can, but it takes work and most people are fucking lazy. So if I
Yes.
said right now, Meridee, no more right hand, you're only going to write with your left hand. You know what? There's going to be days, and I've done this because Bob Proctor was all about this. Every day, 25 times, write your goal with your left hand or your non-dominant hand. So some days I'd get up and I'd start writing with my right hand. And I'd be like, oh shit. And I'd have to start all over again. And by the end of the month, I actually it was pretty legible. I was getting a bit better. I'm actually way better at writing with my left hand because of all the times that I've demonstrated this to people and then done my own practice, but by far still better with my right hand.
I spent a month brushing my teeth with my left hand.
Okay.
That was an interesting challenge in itself. So you don't want to write. Try doing anything that you do unconsciously with the opposite. So for me, it was brushing my teeth. And even then, I'd like start and then I'd be sort of like frustrated because it wasn't working. And I just all of a sudden grab and then I'd be like, oh, wait a second. I can't just take over. Like I have to actually brush my teeth with my whole mouth with my left hand. So definitely. And I feel like this is such a great example of anything. Like my neighbor's son just got a job at McDonald's. Tell me that's not one of the hardest jobs in the world to do, which is why you get a job at McDonald's. And he's had a few breakdowns where he's like, I just can't seem to do anything right. And it's so funny because last night I gave him a ride home and we were talking about like the way that it works. Like they still do grill assembly, chicken nuggets and fish, like all the things. So him and I are talking about how it was 15 years ago. Now it's a lot more automated than it was when you and I did it. But
15 years ago, Meridee?
30 years ago. Oh my God. Okay. I can't believe I said 15 because I feel like I told him yesterday it was 20, but wow. I got to clarify that. 30 years ago because I was 15. So 29. I'm going to say 29 because I'm not 45 yet. But we literally like everything is so similar. And so he had this breakdown and he's like, I'm just not good at it. And I keep getting yelled at and all these things. And his mom was like, hey, you're entitled. I'm going to validate all of these feelings because anytime we do something new, it's hard. But if you run away from it, you're never going to get good at it. And how many times have you like done just that where you're like, I'm just not really all that interested in even learning now because it's not fun for me because I'm not good at it. Like there's certain things we step into and we're good at right away. But let's go back to that childhood thing. When you were learning how to walk and you fell down, not once did it cross your mind, I'm never going to try that again.
I'm just going to stop here. I'm not good at walking.
It never was a thing as a child because you weren't taught how to give up.
Right.
So now, and I feel like that's part of that parental conditioning that we teach our kids is stop. Because they try and they try. Kids are relentless. I mean, humans can be relentless, but children are fucking relentless. Mom, 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 mom. Like it reminds me of that Stewie video and you're just like, shut the fuck up. But we teach them to stop. But we only want them to stop in certain circumstances, not in all circumstances. But how do you teach that? So now as adults, we're unlearning that stop and having to relearn, which makes things 10 times harder than just learning. Right? And I find that's a challenge too, because like if we went to go say to a boxing class, I've been taught by a certain person how to box, and now I'm watching someone else teach someone else how to box, and I'm like, oh, that's not how I was taught, and it would be a lot of work. And a really great example of that is in boxing. When we walk, we walk one foot forward and then the next foot either ahead of it or beside it. And in boxing, you can't do that because if your legs are side by side, you have no balance. So you have to keep your legs separated and you have to keep your dominant stance because that's how you're going to stand up straight. So they actually move front foot first, which is so uncomfortable because you're moving your front foot away from a foot that's already far enough away. And then you have to pull your back foot up. You guys go try this. This is like so not what your brain is conditioned to do that it is like the hardest thing to do. And then on top of it, when your front foot goes down, he wants you to jab. So there's like these things that your body is just not conditioned to do that now you've decided to take a boxing course. And now suddenly you're supposed to do all these things that you were not conditioned to do. And in fact, you have to unlearn what you learned to do in order to learn this new pathway. And these new pathways aren't easy. Learning new things is hard, especially the older we get.
This is why people give up. It's because it's work. Presence is work. To be present is work. So let's just demonstrate for 1 minute here. Close your eyes. Okay. Now look at the black that's behind your eyes and think of nothing. Okay.
Right.
I mean, come on. I know that people have already let like 8,000. How long is this going to be? Am I doing it right? What about my oil? Like
there's no blank. There's no non-thoughts. Right. They're there.
And so the practice actually that Bob Proctor teaches is it's on your will and your willpower. And he says that's like a sixth sense or a gift from God. And he says, go to your favorite place and put a pen mark on the wall. And he's like, don't worry, nobody will notice it except you. Put a pen mark on the wall and sit for 10 minutes and stare at it. And every time another thought other than that pen mark on the wall comes into your mind, push it off. Don't get lost in the thought. This is meditation, right? It's becoming aware of what's going on in your brain. Not stopping thoughts, but literally this practice by Bob is to do that. And then he says, start to increase the time from 10 to 30 minutes, from 30 minutes to an hour. And if you do this, you will change everything. Because it's literally like, we're like, oh, you know this one from the 3-week relationship thing, right? I want to create a yoga business. Okay, for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to give it my all. And when it doesn't work, I'm going to give up. Or when my mother dies, then I'm going to put my business on hold. I hear this all the time. Oh, I'm getting a divorce. My business is on hold. But what if it was the same with a relationship? What if your mother died and you're like, oh, I can't deal with this right now. I'm just going to put you on hold. Like, imagine you went into a relationship and you're like, I'm going to give it my all for 3 weeks. And if it doesn't work out, then I'm going to go.
I just did a reel on this. I had a friend of mine come help me. And I literally said, babe, I got the best idea. I am going to give you my all. I'm going to commit to you. I'm going to be loyal to you, meaning I'm not going to cheat on you for the next 3 weeks. And he's like, that's great. Except what happens after the next 3 weeks? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. And then my reel is about the fact that that's how we show up in everything. And what makes it a joke is if you think about that as your health journey, you can't help but laugh at that because your health journey is not a 3-week thing that's going to work for the rest of your life. You literally need to commit to these things for the rest of your life. Long-term results require.
Wait, hold on. Long-term results require
long-term commitment. And so also, I just want to also put in there that if you put it out to the universe, because this is a game changer for me every time. If you put out to the universe, one of my daily mantras is I invite spirit on today's journey to guide and support me and to help make answering the question would love do easier. I've recently added to that and released what responsibility is not mine. I've now added to it and help me keep my commitments as well, because if I say I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning, I have told everybody that knows me 5:30 is not a reasonable time to be awake. It's disgusting. And yet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm up at 5:30 so I can be at yoga for 6. I have told myself 6:30 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There's not a day that I have slept in on that. Period. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's my thing. I do in that sense now suddenly understand, because I didn't before, really understand why people would be like, oh, I can't wait for the weekend. Suddenly I'm the person who's like, oh, I can't wait to sleep in. But having the universe have my back when I say I'm going to do these things has really helped me to stay committed to doing those things, right? Seeing consistency and discipline are the two things that no matter what you do in your life, you're going to need. But we still, whether I have consistency and discipline is going to come back to whether I had anything as a child. And if I always let myself down in my past, and if I was always let down, if something is, that's how I'm going to show up in the world today. So I feel like these are really important to heal this in order for me to
Yes.
show up for myself today.
Yes, I was literally going to say that, unless you heal it, because you're so used to letting yourself down too, right?
Mhm.
It's scary to walk another path. I am a recovering people pleaser. And in the last little bit, I have not been people pleasing as much as usual. And the other day I said something actually like on within our coaching. It was very fucking confusing. Somebody missed a call again. It was like a whole thing. I've asked for it to be cleared up, like a bunch of stuff. So finally, like people are like, what's going on? They're asking us to show up. Can we move the call an hour ahead? We're like, what call? Like, what the fuck is happening here? And so then I just said, listen, this all sounds really confusing, blah, 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 blah. And I shared my experience. And the person took it, said, thank you. What do you suggest for us to make this easier? And I actually had a suggestion. So I gave it. And then I felt like an asshole. And then our coach started saying, stop bullying this person. All you guys stop bullying this person. It was like, fuck, I finally spoke up and now I'm being called a bully. Right now, I know how it all goes. It's a funny haha and everything. And he didn't even know who it was. But like at the same time, this thing had fucked up a couple times. So I spoke up and I wasn't mean. I was very professional and I also had solutions. At the same time, having shit in my business with someone that I'm trying to come to an agreement with.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well, right? We yelled at each other on the phone for an hour, and I don't really often yell. So we yelled at the phone for an hour, argued, got off the phone. I sent this person a contract and they denied it. And so then said, no, this is really big. We need to get on a call. It's so funny because I shared this with you. I wrote an email and I rewrote it like 8 times, right? And I was telling this person like my experience of them and this and that. And then I thought, you know what? This person doesn't fucking hear me. So I'm not going to say anything other than we hope for the same thing. We both want success for this business. I think success looks different to us. Right? Of course, he responded in the usual way. I knew it. I predicted it to everybody that is in my circle that I bitched to. And I said, listen, he's going to tell me how amazing he is, what a piece of shit I am, and give me an ambiguous answer. And that's what he did. And so he said, we need to hop on a call. And I said, no, I'm not hopping on a call with you. I don't see how that will be helpful after your outbursts and your behaviors. Like, I'm really not into this. You don't fucking listen. You only talk. I even said, I predicted your response to me. I told my sister and my partner, this is how you're going to fucking respond. And how did you respond? Exactly like that. You know what? I do not feel safe with you. I do not, blah, 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 blah. I said all the things that I didn't get to say in the email, but like in a way of defense of myself instead of telling him how he is and trying to humble him.
Yes.
And then there was one more thing that happened, and I can't remember what it was, but I also shared like I didn't agree with a person, and I said, "Oh, with someone that I know," where they kind of were like a little bit passive aggressive, and I said, that sounded very passive aggressive. I would never say that." So then her and I actually got into a conversation about how she feels and about how I feel and if we even should be friends. Okay. The situation got resolved in the coaching program. And the person that I'm talking about actually said, you know what, there's no excuse for my behavior. And I'm so very sorry. And I totally understand why you don't want to talk to me. And that's fine. I have some clarifying questions. And then he signed the contract. So, but before everything turned out all great, was a full day of like, I thought I was going to die. Like, I felt like I was in so much trouble. I didn't know, like, I just had this impending doom. So anxiety. And
Yeah.
I just felt like something's really wrong. And this is inner child fucking healing at its best, because I sat there and I was like, okay, why am I having these feelings? And then I was like, oh, logically, I did 3 things that I don't usually do.
I'm just gonna do bobblehead every time you do it.
So those 3 things were all the opposite of people pleasing. And then I was like, Colynn, you're just doing something different. So you're uncomfortable in the new pathway. So sit with it and actually let the feelings like come and bubble to the surface instead of messaging all those people back and telling them how fucking wrong I was, because that's usually what I do. I'm so sorry. I was such an asshole. I wasn't thinking of you. And then I usually get busy doing something else. And I didn't do that. But then the next day, everything kind of worked out and everything figured out. So the shift isn't just easy. It's not like, oh, I went in and I healed an extra trauma from when I was a kid and now everything's amazing.
There's a great example. My best friend is currently going through as well. She called me today and was like, dude, I'm like angry. And so one of her patterns is if I'm hurting, you're fucking gonna hurt too. Okay, that's a really strong one for her. And until I pointed it out, she wasn't even aware that she was doing it. And so she's like, I behave today in ways that I don't like to behave. And I was like, okay, tell me what happened. So she's very loud. You guys heard her on the podcast. She's very loud. She's aware of it. She doesn't like it about herself. And it's something she is working on. But when we say working on, it happens in the moments. And so what happened this morning was that she was at the gym and her and 3 people were together. And one of the things I've noticed with her, and I did bring up to her, is that, for example, when she is with our coach, not our coach, but our fitness coach, she is the loudest I've seen her. And when she is triggered or her nervous system is triggered, she is so loud. So when she's dealing with her emotional stuff, when she is healing something, or when she's around someone who triggers those feelings within her, she gets really loud. And not just that, but then there's certain people that she can be around that trigger something in her to make her loud or for her to be louder. And so there was 3 of them. They were all standing around. They were all having a conversation quite loudly in the gym. And this person on the treadmill like looked at them and was like, ugh, and shook their head at her. And the work is in the moment, seeing that, feeling the trigger and being like, oh, I'm being loud. I should be quiet, or I should quiet down. That would be the work. And the reason she messaged me today is because she didn't do the work today. She literally looked at the chick and let her ego out and went, oh, are we bothering you? And then turned into a bitch, got louder, then said something really rude that she knows better than to say and wouldn't say normally, but wanted to hurt her because she was hurt. So she said something incredibly rude and super hurtful. And then basically went home and started plotting against her for the next day. What am I going to do to make her miserable tomorrow? And then called me and was like, okay, can we just talk about this for a second? Because I'm pissed. And I was like, you're pissed because she called you out without even calling you out. I was like, you were in a group of 3 girls and you're making this all about you. This woman, it's not even about her reaction, isn't even about the 3 of you. Her reaction is the fact that 3 loud women triggered her. That's her shit. But there's 3 loud women in a circle, but you're the one she's focused on, right? And she was like, oh my God. I was like, also, being loud is something you're working on. It's something you don't like about yourself. So you getting louder gave you what result? And she's like, I feel like shit about myself. And I was like, and like, where is the piece in this? Like, dig into this. And then we started talking and she has realized that she doesn't even notice what her physical body does when she's triggered. So I was like, can I encourage you to like go to the gym and go to the people who trigger you and have a conversation just so that you can get triggered, so you can pay attention to the sensation in your body. So our coach, he is very opinionated. His way, the way he talks to you is his way is the only way. I just don't really give a shit. My way works for me. You can tell me what you want. I'll take it into consideration and then I'm going to do what works for me. But he's very, very strongly opinionated. And so he'll tell her imposter syndrome come in. And so I said, go talk to him about something that's going to trigger you and do it with intention, but don't go in to have him trigger you or to become triggered. Go into it to notice what triggers you so that you can really become aware of the physical sensation. Because when that physical sensation comes up, so when that woman looks at you, a physical sensation is going to show up in your body and you can go, oh, I'm triggered. okay, I'm in a moment to learn and change, because otherwise I can turn into the asshole that is like, oh, did we bother you? Or you can be like, oh, you guys were being really loud right now. Those are our options right now. And she was like, holy shit. And then I said to her, do you remember like a year ago? And I bet you'll even remember this too, because I'll never forget it. About a year ago, one of the thing for me, I would tell you a story and I would get so emotionally charged and so loud and so passionate about that story. People would just be like, holy shit, like what is happening right now? And two things were happening. My nervous system, well, more than two, but my nervous system was being kicked into gear. I was reliving the emotions I had already lived, which was not help. I was getting fucking loud. I was turning into someone I didn't like. So all of these things were happening. And I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I've noticed I'm not like that very much anymore. There's times, sometimes. And when it happens, though, I'm like, oh, this still is triggering me. Interesting. Gonna have to think about that later. And then I get into whatever I'm getting into, but I slow myself down, I calm myself down, and I talk a lot quieter. So I brought those things up to her. Go ahead. You have something to say. I'm really interested, please.
I am like, we have a perfect opportunity to let someone see inner child work
Yes.
if you're open to it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so because I think like you can be present in the moment, but I think the core and the trigger is really from childhood. So
Almost always.
in order to heal it, we got to heal that moment where you realize like I fucking suck and I need to behave this way in order to get attention. So do you want to do a little bit of healing work?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. So you get comfy, close your eyes, roll your shoulders down your spine, and I want you to think about like those moments where you get really loud and really passionate. You experience your emotions. Can you think of a time?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So bring it into your body because this is somatic work as well, right? So bring it into your body and then tell me, where do you feel it physically in your
So
body?
uncomfortable right here and right here. Like
Okay.
so uncomfortable. I'm so not used to feeling this anymore that this is
Yeah.
really, really uncomfortable for me.
Okay.
It's like a tightness. That lump we talk about has
Yeah.
just appeared in my throat. My
Okay.
chest wants to be like, I want to close my shoulders around me
Yeah.
and protect myself.
Okay. So when you do that, do you think that you breathe shallower or deeper?
Shallow, and deep breaths really help me to open it up and let
Yeah.
it go.
Okay. So not yet. I want you to magnify that feeling in your body. Like I want you to
Ew.
really feel that pressure on your chest, in your throat, that feeling of needing to protect, and let a memory come to you of the earliest you can think of when you felt this in your body.
So it's not even, it feels like I'm seeing like flashes of like the same reaction.
Okay.
And it's me walking into the kitchen in our house in Abbotsford, me walking into the kitchen upstairs. Mom was doing something. And when I walked in, I wanted to tell her a story. And she was just like so irritated with the fact that I had even opened my mouth, is my reaction to her. And just feeling like I need to shut down or get louder for her to hear me.
Mm. Okay, so I want you to think about you walking in. So how old do you think you are at that time?
I want to say like 9 or 10, actually.
Okay.
And I know there's previous ones, but that's the one that's
Yep.
coming to me right now.
Yep. Okay. So can you see yourself as a 9-year-old, like wanting your mother's attention and her just being fucking irritated with you?
Yep.
Okay. So now I want you to remove your mom from the situation and put yourself at this age right now with all the knowledge that you have in that situation. Now, what would you say to yourself?
I would literally turn around and be like, hey, baby, okay, what? Tell me what you need. Tell me your story. I have things I need to do. So tell me, I'm going to give you all my attention right in this moment. And I would let my little child tell the story that she's so excited or so emotionally charged about. And then I would probably either, validate her feelings or ask her what she needs from me in this moment.
So what does she need from you in this moment?
She just wants my attention because she didn't get any.
Hmm.
So the story it seems like I'm telling is a little bit about like being bullied in Sumas, Upper Sumas,
Okay.
for my guest outfit.
Okay.
And I was being bullied and I didn't like our new home. I didn't like any of the new things. And I just wanted to be loved and hugged. And like, I
Hmm.
just needed someone to love me while everyone else was hating me.
Okay. So can you
Oh, I'm
literally,
hugging her.
yeah, hug her, tell her she looks great in her outfit. You know, that maybe people don't understand now, but that she'll come to help a lot of people when she's older. And that she's a bubble of light. Lots of people like to listen to you, so you can tell her that. See, and now for anyone watching, Meridee just took a deep breath. And so as a coach, for me, that's a sign that she's really like instituted the healing. And the body is taking like this breath of like releasing
Hmm.
some of the
I
trauma
got some
around this.
goosebumps.
Yeah.
I got some goosebumps because the little girl actually feels like validated
Mm.
and like like I am picturing her kind of being like "Mm," and just kind of skipping off rather than like
Right.
the way I was before. And I remember this scenario where like I wasn't heard. Her back was towards me the whole time. She was annoyed and huffing almost at me while I'm telling the story.
Mhm.
Didn't validate me, didn't anything, and then I like slump off because nobody heard me, and now I'm just being validated that everybody hates me.
Right. Right.
Whereas instead, as that little girl walked away, she felt heard, she felt understood, she felt loved, even when everyone else was hating her, even though it wasn't everyone else hating her. There was some jealousy and there was some whatever.
Yeah.
She's okay, and that she'll be okay.
And she doesn't need to get loud for attention.
Mhm. And I feel like that's a lot of the work that I've done with myself, as well as just like the conscious, oh, okay, I'm getting into this again. Like I'm getting into this
Yes.
story and I'm feeling these feelings. And I feel like coming back to that body sensation is now like a physical to emotional trigger for me. Like it's like if I feel this sensation, I'm like, oh, okay,
Yes.
I need to pay attention to what's happening here.
That's the amygdala is like literally the lens of the nervous system. So when there's situations in which you don't feel heard, you get louder, right?
Hmm.
And that's just a natural reaction. It bypasses the frontal lobe. So it's a quick firing thing that happens automatically because when you were 3 and it happened, if you had any emotion in that moment, what are we taught as 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 4-year-olds? Be good, right? What's
Shut
being
up.
good? Don't scream, don't have a temper tantrum, don't cry, don't
And
fucking
yet, as
mouth
a
me off.
baby, when we're not getting what we need, we get louder, right? So that we're heard from further distances or whatever. Like when it comes down to like that, like let's go back to the caveman time. If your mom had gone out hunting or anything like that, you needed to be loud enough to get the attention to get them to come back to you. And that seems to be a thing that we do. So I also have said in relationships moving forward, one of the things I don't want to do is yell anymore. I don't like
Mhm.
it when someone yells at me. Why am I yelling it to someone else?
So
So,
think about that. You're 3, you're also not supposed to express. So then the next time the exact same situation happens, because your parent's going to show up with some consistency, right? So the next time that happens, you're not just dealing with the emotions from that specific situation, you're dealing with the emotions from before too, because you're also been told that emotions are bad and don't express them. So
mhm,
now you're 40, let's just say, and you're still like realizing, oh fuck, my nervous system wasn't able to process emotions, so where the fuck did they go? Guess what?
yeah,
They're strong and they're all over this beautiful piece of machinery. So every time you feel that similar emotion, it's going to be 1,000 times worse than the first time you ever felt it. It's
yeah,
not only like the sensations of not being heard and feeling degraded and feeling bullied and nobody loves me, it's like ingrained and concentrated so much your entire life that that's like it's fucking devastating. Like what's happening for Lindsay is she's going into a full-fledged sympathetic nervous system. And the only way that she knows how to deal with that is to call, you know, someone a fucking name or call them out, or are we disturbing you, bitch? Fuck you. Like, it's the fight.
And she literally even saw herself, like she said, dude, everything in me is like, I'm gonna fucking beat that bitch up. And she's like, I literally feel like my 16-year-old self in high school being picked on. And I was like, what a great place to go heal. And I was like, and we were on the phone. And I said to her, I actually, it's so funny that we're even doing this, because I said to her, I was like, don't you have your morning bath and meditation here pretty quick? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm really curious to hear what comes out of your meditation from that. Because I said, maybe this is what you need to focus on, because our change doesn't happen. And I've said it before, and I'm going to say it for the rest of my life. Our change doesn't happen in the moment we choose to change. Our change happens in the moment that it's the most challenging to change the behavior.
Exactly.
So when you're triggered, whether that's by smoking, alcohol, people, whatever it is, when you're triggered and you want to go into the old school coping mechanism, choosing the new coping mechanism or choosing the new behavior is the only way for you to move through it and actually make the change. That's where it has to happen. But also, we now need to go back to where it started and help that little girl. And what you just walked me through is literally reparenting the child who was wounded. So yes, that was my initial experience, but your brain doesn't know the difference between imagination or real. So go back and reparent the child so that she doesn't have to feel that way again. And yeah, it may sound like a bunch of, you know, heebie-jeebie voodoo hoo-ha bullshit, but it actually works.
Or just fucking stay the way you are.
Yeah, that's a choice too. Not
like,
for me. It's not.
Hate it all you want, but like, here we are over here healing, doing that woohoo bullshit, and there you can stay just triggered and fucking losing your shit all over people if you want.
Yep, you can stay the person you are now, and there is nothing wrong with that. But if you don't like it, I'm pretty sure you're gonna find that other people don't like it too.
I have a meditation that I did, inner child meditation. Is a really good one. It's actually an adaptation of the one that we got from our coach this month. So if anybody wants to,
why don't you put it in the link of the description, and then we'll add it in all of the podcast uploads.
That sounds good.
And then you guys can just, she's got other ones too. And once you're on that meditation, you'll be able to go to her channel. And if you want, you can follow the channel and do all the things.
Totally.
Yeah. So I definitely would recommend doing that. There's been a lot of really helpful ones. What was the one? The one I got from you, I want to say about 2 or 3 months ago, was imagining who you actually are and who you want to become. Because, and for me, visualization was a really challenging thing to start with, but just like any other muscle, it's something I'm working to build. And it is getting easier, and it is getting more clear when I'm doing the things. So I have to say, it's much like brushing your teeth with your left hand. And if you want to start slow, brush your teeth with your left hand. You're not going to hurt anybody by brushing your teeth with your left hand. Start there and start working on muscles you're not used to having.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I think this was a good one.
Thank you guys for joining us. And we will, Lynn we have so many announcements at this point. Okay, so we'll start with Spiritual Sisters with Sass. You guys are going to start, we're going to start season 3 at the beginning of November, and you're going to start hearing from us bi-weekly instead of weekly. Just because schedules and things like that. Lynn is going to be starting an additional podcast that will also be released bi-weekly. So if you want to hear us, you'll hear Spiritual Sisters with Sass every other week. But the weeks that you don't hear from us, you're probably going to hear from the Yoga is a Science, or Yoga is Science.
Yoga is Science
is going to be the name of her podcast. She's going to get started on doing that soon enough. I'm going to say you're going to have it up and running by November, probably. Hopefully by the second week, because the first week will probably be a Spiritual Sisters with Sass and then hers. She also has done some merging of modern yoga and friction, and has started creating some really great online things. She's releasing an app. Go check out Friction, but it's the phonetic spelling. So Lynn, spell it for us.
It's FRIKSHUHN.
So look her up. You'll find her on YouTube. You'll find her on Instagram. You'll find her website. And she's going to be, there's so many new and exciting things happening for her right now. So definitely go support. I am appearing on multiple New podcasts as well as a guest, which I'm super excited about. Most of them are based around recovery, sobriety, those types of things, addiction. And so if you guys are interested, I'm sure if you Google my name, you're going to see me on these various podcasts. Laser Quit is also doing what we call partnership or licensing. I refuse to do the franchising. So what we've decided to do is if you already have a business and our business or our services would be a complementary service to what you offer, we are offering licensing. If you're interested, you guys can find me, look up Laser Quit. You can send me an email and we can set up a call to discuss that. Both of us just have so many things
Going
happening
on
right now and going through the funnel. I mean, this is also what happens when you hire a coach.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in hiring a coach, both of us do coaching. Lynn does a lot of business coaching within, I want to say the fitness industry, not just yoga, but hers is more centered around yoga.
Spiritual entrepreneurs.
There you go. Mine will be centered around growing a business, expenses, because my background being bookkeeping, accounting, stuff like that. I'm going to work on those things with you as well as your content and stuff like that. But my real high attention focus is going to be around helping people get sober and stay sober. So if you guys are interested in any of those things, make sure you reach out to us. We're super excited to have you guys on this journey with us, and we're going to keep bringing you awesome content both through all of our social media channels as well as through our podcasts. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Definitely. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on this spirited journey today.
We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of self-improvement with us. Two sisters who found their own unique paths.
Remember, life is a tapestry of experiences, and it's how we embrace them that makes all the difference.
So whether you're on your yoga mat, exploring mindfulness, or simply navigating life's twists and turns, always keep that spirit and sass alive.
We are Colynn and Meridee Lockoff, and we're here to remind you that happiness and abundance are within reach.
Stay connected with us on social media and keep those questions and stories coming. We love hearing from you.
Until next time, beautiful souls, keep doing the work, keep sharing your experiences, and keep living a life that's authentically you.
And never forget to add a little extra sass to your day.
Spirit and sass, always.